What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Bat Flip, where we discuss everything baseballs. I'm Lane Araby, with me, Dylan Taylor. It's the last dance, the last Bat Flip of the season. Tennessee season comes to an end in the Super Regionals in Game 3 against Notre Dame. I'm just heartbroken. I don't know how else to put it. Yesterday was a rough day, and my wife knew it was going to be a rough day when I got home. She was waiting on me as soon as I opened the door to give me a hug. So that was nice of her. Appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, it's just been such a long season. For that to just come to an end the way that it did was just pretty disheartening. Um, so let's do one thing real quick. Let's just have a little moment of silence in here. Well, let's let everybody get in here real quick. We can share it out. But just think of your favorite moments. We're going to come up with that, come back to it the last part of this show. And I just want to get everybody's, favorite moment this past year. So take just a brief moment. We'll come back. So here we go. That silence is killer. I don't like it at all. Um, I think the thing that hurts the most is for me is all the guys that aren't going to be there anymore. The guys that are out of eligibility, so they don't even have the choice to come back. But it's also the guys who aren't coming back due to the draft, that their historic season comes to an end, and those are some of the players that Gilbert, Beck, Tidwell. Those guys are some of the best players ever to come through Tennessee. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
that's pretty insane to think about.
I'm a little more of the previous, just guys like Redmond Walsh, just who instantly pops in my mind. Who, I mean, was thought to be a team manager when the new guy showed up, and I mean, he just did so much for this program. Not a big guy, but he always seemed to come up clutch in the big moments. The guys that have been there forever, it's guys like him.
Yeah, yeah. Man, the national media members that are having a victory lap over Tennessee losing is just, I think it speaks to how good this team was. Like, you have Danny Cannell, who covers football, and he's talking, he's tweeting about Tennessee. When has he ever tweeted about college baseball? I'm willing to go out on a limb that he's probably never tweeted about college baseball, and he's firing off multiple tweets about Tennessee and how he's glad that they lost and classless and blah blah. Danny Cannell, you had more interceptions than touchdowns in the NFL, so you absolutely suck. Um, just as a human in general, and then the fan bases that are also taking that victory lap. It's like your teams are sitting at home way before Tennessee was. So, what are we going for?
When's the last time Danny Cannell contributed anything positive to society,
That's true. Yeah, I mean,
if ever?
would anybody? I shouldn't say that. Never mind. People might miss him.
Eh,
It's probably kind of
eh.
dark, but that dude, yeah, he's just a scumbag. I think Caleb tweeted that at him. So yeah, he wanted to beam players. Um, if somebody did a bat flip, well, I mean, if you want to put people on base, that's cool. I mean, I know Danny is used to throwing to opposing teams, so it makes sense. Just whatever. But I thought for this last episode, we can kind of course, we're going to talk about the series a little bit, get that past us, and then what we're looking at for lineup wise next season, who we got coming back, and then obviously that favorite moment that we had that moment of silence for. So think about that. If y'all have any questions, please drop those in the chat. We'd love to get to those. Um, I'm trying to get this thing shared out a little bit, but um, Tennessee outscores Notre Dame 21-19 in the series, but it was the mistakes Tennessee made. Tennessee didn't play their best baseball this weekend. I think Notre Dame is a pretty good team. Obviously, they're in the Super Regional now. They're going to Omaha, but I thought it was more that Tennessee just didn't play like they have all season. More than it was Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is the best defensive team that I think Tennessee's seen. I mean, we've scorched some balls all over the field, and Notre Dame, their infield, rolled it up in the middle, made diving plays all weekend long. So, there was that aspect, but we left 21 runners on base. They left 15. Yesterday, we left 5 on base. They left 1. I mean, we led for, I think, 16 of the 27 innings and, lost the series 2-1. It's just heartbreaking. Just the mistakes that Tennessee hasn't, we weren't patient at the plate at all. We shelled their ace, the guy that they wanted to close it out with on Saturday. And I think they thought they had a good chance of doing that. We shelled him, but couldn't find a way in those other 2 games to get a win. And, the four errors in the series, I mean, we just looked like everything was just difficult for us in the field. I don't know if it was a lot of what Notre Dame was doing, but it just seems like we were playing back too far, and every single ground ball was difficult.
Well, credit to their coaching staff too. It seemed like a lot of the plays that they made on defense, it seemed like they were lined up really well. So I don't know. You don't credit head coach, scouting, whoever you want to give credit to it. I did kind of notice that. I mean, it's like every hard hit ball was right at somebody, it seemed like, but it wasn't just conventional, like center fielder doesn't have to move in his regular spot. It seemed like they did a good job in the infield and outfield of kind of aligning to certain tendencies, which we've seen this team break tendencies all year. But I mean, yeah, it's like you said, like nothing really went right this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you look at that last game, the meat of your lineup: Jordan Beck, Drew Gilbert, Trey Lipscomb, Drell Ortega, 0 for 12. Has that ever happened this season?
I don't remember it.
And Gilbert, I know he's coming back from that suspension, and it just looked like he was maybe trying to do a little bit too much, which I get. Like, you have all that kind of, and we probably contributed to that too, but making it a big deal that he was coming back, and the crowd was roaring every time they announced his name. He made a fantastic play in the outfield, but then had an error on a throw. Luckily, it didn't cost Tennessee. They're able to get the guy out at third. But yeah, he just looked like he was kind of impatient at the plate, and that was kind of all Tennessee, and that just hasn't been them so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, you were already down in a hole, so you don't know if you're going to come back or not. But we've seen him make base running mistakes sometime this year, but the last one by Drew was, I mean, that you don't gain anything from that right there. With his speed, a ball in the gap anyway, like he's probably got a decent chance of scoring regardless. So trying to take the extra base there. I mean, that play right after it happened was just kind of like, yep, that's kind of been the whole game.
Yep. And Luke Lipsius, I mean, I thought he tattooed the ball all weekend long. I thought he had a fantastic series. Ends up getting the home run record from Evan Russell, which is pretty cool to see in that final game. But Tennessee carries a 3-1 lead in the 7th, and woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't. You ride Chase Burns, and I know a lot of people are like, I kind of got in an argument last night about, um, this being easily avoidable. And I mean, your Friday night starter all year long is shoving it in a super regional, giving up 2 hits until that seventh inning, and you get two down, 2 strikes, and a guy, pokes one opposite field to right, and it was his second home run of the season. I mean, that's kind of a fluke. So at that point, like then the argument becomes, yes, you take Burns out then, or you leave him in. You try to get out of the inning and then go to your bullpen in the eighth, with a tie ball game, and he gives up another one. It didn't work out. You were that was your decision to be made, but I thought it was a no brainer to go back to him in the seventh.
Yeah, the idiots that are just piling on saying they're just saying what they're saying because Tony came out and said, "Yeah, I could have managed better. Like I made a lot of mistakes." He's going to say that. Like he's the head coach. Like
Mhm.
I mean, have we ever seen Tony Vitello come out and say, "Hey, it's so and so's fault we lost this game"? No, he's not going to do that. I mean, that's why the players love him too. Like he's the head coach. He's going to come out and say, "Hey, I made mistakes. Hey, I could have done this better." But it's like some people take that as the opportunity. Like, yeah, Tony really didn't have a good weekend this weekend. I'm like, dude, like that if it works out with Burns there, nobody says a word.
Yeah.
Like, and he's earned, regardless of if you personally think he should have been in or not, I think he's earned the right to, if it's questionable, let him go. Like, I think he's earned that right over this year with his performance to to get the little longer leash. And I see some people saying like, oh, you can't have a long leash in the playoffs or in the postseason. Then what's the point of even having starters then? Like, why not just go?
Yeah.
Why is every game not a bullpen game then? Like that makes no sense to me.
Right, right. Like the long leash thing doesn't make any sense because like there was no slack. Like you had plenty of room. Like you had a 3-1 lead. There's two down in the seventh inning, and a guy finds a barrel, and it. They, I mean, what are the chances that guy hits a home run? He's had one all season long.
Right. Like
So
it's
like at
not
most it's a base hit. You're still up at least a run.
it's not like you were asking for it. Like what happened was an oddity. Like it's not like
Mhm.
it's Judd Fabian in the plate, standing at the plate there, and you're like, oh, this guy's a threat to change
Right.
a game like that. I mean,
Right.
it's baseball.
Yep.
You don't need a leash when you've got a backyard fence. Like that's just like that's all the leash discussion is irrelevant because, like you said, it's a scenario where you're not even factoring that in really, and it's a guy who's earned the right to be off the leash, like to not have a leash.
Yeah, and it's not like our bullpen just shut them down after they came in either. So like,
Right.
yeah, I just don't understand the argument, um,
Yeah,
of how it's all on Tony.
If Ben Joyce comes in after that and strikes out every guy he faces for 2 innings, okay, you can have that discussion then. But yeah, who came out of the bullpen when they did? It wasn't like that was just shut down and you're one run down, you got a chance. I mean, it was you were down a lot less when he came out of the game, and then Kirby, love Kirby, but he hung one over the middle, and then the lead explodes. Then, so I
Mhm.
I don't understand the argument either.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to argue that you should have taken him out after the first home run, hey, fine. I think looking back on it, maybe Tony thinks the same thing. But that going into the seventh inning, it's no brainer. You're riding Chase Burns because he's absolutely shoving it. His pitch count was like at what 80. Like it's not like he was in triple digits and losing velocity. His velocity was staying 96, 97. So yeah, I just don't get it. I don't know how you just go with the blame that it was Tony Vitello when it again it's just baseball. It just didn't work out. You made a decision. It looks like you made the wrong one after they tie the game, and you move on. We didn't score after that anyway, though. So
Right.
like even if it's tied up, you still got to keep them from scoring, and we weren't able to do that when we went to the bullpen, and we made some mistakes in the field again, and Notre Dame didn't make those same mistakes.
People are overblowing Tony's mistakes, but yeah, it's like you just said. If he manages a perfect game, I don't know that you win that game. Like Notre Dame is the better team right now. Like Tennessee's the better roster, the better coaching staff, everything. But you've seen in baseball happen with my Braves last year. Did anybody think the Braves were going to win a World Series in July?
Yeah.
No. I mean they were putrid then, but at the end of the year they don't wind up with the best record, but they got hot at the right time. Like it's for me, I know not for you, but for me, it worked out well last year. This year, it comes back. I mean, Notre Dame is just playing exceptionally well. They have been since the end of the year. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was the talk that maybe they should be hosting, and they come to Knoxville, and when a team's hot like they are right now, it doesn't really matter if you're hosting or not. It's show up to the field, and if you're hot, it's going to go until it burns out.
Yeah, it just sucks because like only one team their season doesn't really end in heartbreak. Um, and for this team to be as good as it was all season long, I mean that everybody was just piling on like they couldn't wait for Tennessee to lose. When we lost to
Yeah.
Tennessee Tech, I mean we heard about it for weeks. But again, just baseball's a brutal sport. That's you have millionaires um, being successful 3 out of 10 times. It's it's brutal. It's just not. It's a game you got to have a short memory with, and I don't know how you really have a short memory of this season, especially how it ended. But 57 wins, 9 losses. I mean, yeah, you hang your head that you didn't win the whole thing, but only one team was going to win it. Obviously we wish that was us. Obviously we wish we could have won this game and got to Omaha again and made some noise, kind of right that wrong that when we got there last year. But it doesn't take away from what this team accomplished. Again, I was mentioning some of the players earlier about how some of them are probably the best to ever come through Tennessee. Um, what they accomplished: SEC regular season title, SEC tournament title, um, most wins in school history, most home runs in school history. I mean, we were just setting records, and we got a lot coming back next year. I'm excited about that. You lose some guys, but you have some quality depth in this lineup where you're able to hopefully replace some of them. And I don't think this program is going anywhere anytime soon. I think they're here to stay at the top of college baseball with Tony Vitello, even though he said he made some mistakes. Cool. He won 57 games too. So I mean, how Tony Vitello didn't keep you from Omaha. So for those who's saying that, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Tony Vitello is the reason we actually have a program where people are arguing about it. There was no chatter about Tennessee baseball on Twitter or Facebook or anything until Tony Vitello got here. So
And not only won 57, but won you a regular season championship, a postseason championship, swept Vanderbilt, swept Ole Miss. I mean, it was a machine all year. Like
yeah,
they weren't a good team. I don't think. I mean, obviously you got the people piling on, and I got a quick point on that too. But you got the people piling on saying, "Oh, this is the best team ever." Like, I get it. You can say what you want. Like they didn't accomplish the goal they had at the end of the year. Find me a team that was better in the regular season. I've seen all these people saying, "Oh, this is the best team." Well, show me who was a better team. Pull up your best team and compare them to this squad, and we'll see. The second point was like the I get some people piling on. Like I get the way that we play. I get some people aren't going to like it. Like I understand that's their opinion to have. That's their right to have that opinion. It's the people that are piling on. It's like the Alabama football fans that when they win the championship, they're the first to be celebrating, but throughout the year they couldn't care less. They're not watching any games. They're not
oh yeah,
invested at all. it's the media members that are piling on that, like we were talking about before. I've got it pulled up. I actually wanted to shout him out just because he's so stupid. Eli Hershkovich
What a
has this
name.
the viral tweet of life comes at you fast with Beck rounding first base, flipping the bird, and then what he thinks is Beck in the second picture looking sad after the game. It's Cortland Lawson. Like I get you don't like it maybe, but that's clearly somebody that doesn't even care enough about the sport to take 2 seconds to say, oh, that's not the same player. Like I just saw a dude with long hair when half Tennessee's roster has long hair. Oh, it must be the same guy. Like
Yeah.
it's the people that I get. If some people want to take their shots, and that's fine. I mean, that's we did the same thing with Arkansas last year. Well, I mean, I thought the Omahogs behind the plate was very funny. Like when you kind of hype it up like that, you're that good, and you don't accomplish your goal. There are going to be people that say stuff like that's fine. That's part of sports. But it's the people that don't care enough about the sport to take the time and actually make sure what they're about to say even makes sense.
Yeah, and the fact that they went out of their way to even acknowledge Tennessee in college baseball, just that's clear evidence that what this baseball team has done for the game of college baseball.
Yeah,
It's growing it, whether you like it or not. It's growing it. And this is a program where recruits are lining up to have a chance to play here. You know, we just landed one of the top transfers in the country. That's has the potential to be a top prospect in next year's draft. So, even the transfers, they see it. They see the passion. They see how fun it is. With the fans and the atmosphere, they want to be a part of it. So, keep piling on. We'll keep being the villains, and that's cool with us. Would I like for our pitching coach to maybe be there in a game 3 of a super regional? Absolutely. So I could do without some suspensions, but again, that kind of happens when you're as passionate as fiery as this team is.
Yeah, another great tweet I saw, the big donkey from Virginia last year, Big Steven. Somebody he kind of gave Tennessee the respect. Somebody responded with the picture of Beck, of course, just saying something smart, and he said, without the season they just had in these moments, when's the last time you've had a picture of a college baseball player saved on your phone in your camera roll?
Absolutely.
Like, not only that, but a team that you're not even a fan of. Like, you just have some random college baseball player like that. If that doesn't show how much people care and whether positive or negative what they thought about the team, they thought about them, like that was the tweet that kind of encapsulated all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks it didn't end the way we wanted it to. Again, yesterday was a rough day. Just came in all sweaty, sunburnt, and just kind of sat in the shower for about 30 minutes. But hey, man, we'll get back at it next year. And it was so much fun to be a part of it, being Lindsey Nelson, and I can't wait for them to improve that facility and just meeting so many people. Parents of players. We got to have Jarrell Ortega on this season. That was really cool. Having Zerker, Richard Jackson, guys like that, just be a part of our network a little bit. It makes it sting a little bit more. It really does. But well, let's look into next year a little bit. So 3 guys you're definitely losing. No eligibility left. Redmond Walsh, Luke Lipsius, Evan Russell. Contributors that you're losing these guys: Drew Gilbert, Jordan Beck, Blade Tidwell, Ben Joyce. I would probably throw Trey Lipscomb in there as well. I know he's a shot to come back, but when you're had the season that he had, I just don't see how you really top that, other than winning SEC Player of the Year, which he very well probably should have this season also.
Finalist for National Player of the Year, but couldn't crack the top 2 in the SEC. That makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of sense. So I think all five of those guys are probably gone. I think your maybes are Seth Stevenson, Cortland Lawson, and Drill Ortega. Um, it's weird because you have NIL, and me and Drew Beam's dad, Jason, were kind of talking about this the other day. It's weird to factor that in because usually, like any amount of money, that kid's gone. But now you have this NIL. I don't know exactly how much guys are making, but a guy like Seth Stevenson and Drill Ortega, Cortland Lawson, guys who had huge impacts on this year's team, you know, when next season rolls around, those guys are going to be the focal point of those kind of NIL deals. Um, so I mean, it's just something to kind of keep an eye on. Again, I don't know how it turns out. They might get with an agent, and he's telling them to, any amount of money, any kind of draft pick, hey, go. Or I don't know exactly how they're advised, but um, I think those three are kind of up in the air. So I mean, kind of what are your thoughts on that? I kind of mentioned that to myself, but do you have any kind of
I mean,
disagreement or anything like that?
no, I think I would see. I think I'd see Jarrell staying. That's just a guess. I don't have any inside knowledge of that or anything. That's just because I think he's probably the one people could latch on to the most. Is had a great year this year. He's universally loved. It seems like, you get the stories of him sleeping in the facility just to get more work in. I mean, he seems like he, out of those maybes, is probably the one that stands the most to gain next year in terms of NIL.
Sure,
I feel like he's probably, if he stays, they could market it to him as he's really one of the leaders, which he was this year too. Don't get me wrong, but could really step up as, you saw the Trey Lipscomb shirts, you saw the Mike Honcho shirts. He's another year, and he's probably more of a fan favorite than he already is. So I think he's got the most return on investment potential. I'll put it that way.
yeah. Two more guys I kind of forgot to mention in that, or yeah, two more guys. Will Mabry and Camden Sewell. I mean, I think both those guys will have a shot to maybe get drafted. Um, I just don't know what that. Again, I just don't know what that looks like. It's kind of complicated with NIL and kind of what your role looks like next year, especially pitching wise. So those are kind of two more you can add in there. I mean, Mabry's got some stuff to be that top reliever for Tennessee. I don't know if that's what I think you'll see Kirby back. I know he's draft eligible as well, but I think you'd good. I think you'll see him back. But I think Mabry has some good stuff. I know he's working on some more pitches. So you know, again, I don't know how they're advised, but I'd love to see him back. Love to see Will the Thrill back. Camden,
I'd
love to see him
I'd be
back.
shocked if Kirby was gone.
Yeah.
That might suck more than a loss. I mean, it wouldn't, but that'd be right up there. I don't see any scenario of Kirby leaving,
Yeah.
just because like what I just said too. Like, I mean, that I'm sure he probably did decent on NIL this year. If he didn't, somebody please help him out, because I mean he's maybe the most marketable player in all of college baseball right
Yeah.
now. Besides,
100%.
not for the same reason that Ben Joyce is, that I said earlier, or I said a couple of weeks ago, but just the look. I mean, somebody's going to make him some money off that.
Absolutely. Um, I think you'll see Cortland Lawson and Seth Stevenson back. Seth Stevenson, I know teams were probably going to love his speed. Um, but I think both those guys could really benefit for another year. I think they can really build on the season they had this year. Not saying that they had a bad season. Um, I mean, but they didn't have the Trey Lipscomb where I don't think they can top it.
Right. Like Trey, I got no problem with Trey leaving, because I mean, coming back's more of a risk. Like, that's
Yeah.
injury just tailing off next year. I mean, he's at his peak right now. Like, even next year, even if he has a really good year, it's going to be hard to top what he did this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys that are for sure coming back, you got Drew Beam, Chase Burns, Chase Dolander, that three-headed monster you have in your starting rotation. Seth Halverson will also be back. The transfer from Missouri that was out due to injury this season. Got Blake Burke, Christian Moore, Jared Dickey, Kyle Booker. I'm sure there's some more in there, but those are kind of the contributors you had this season that will be back. Wyatt Evans is another one who pitched kind of sparingly for Tennessee. I think you'll see Xander Sechrist back. So I think you got a really good pitching wise. I definitely starting pitching wise, but I think you got a pretty good bullpen in there as well. If you're able to get maybe a Camden or Will Mabry, again, it's going to be attractive to transfers also. So I don't, I think you're able to replace the guys that you end up losing for whatever reason. So, yeah, I kind of like our lineup with Christian Moore, Blake Burke, Jared Dickey in there. I think Cortland Lawson, Seth Stevenson, Maui Ahuna from the Kansas shortstop that committed to Tennessee, who's first team All Big 12, 396 batting average, 48 RBIs, 8 home runs in 53 games this season. Also finished the season on a 20-game hit streak. So I don't know if you saw any videos. We posted a video of him making a play at shortstop. Damn.
Where I wondered, where do you think? Do you think he's shortstop? And if so, do you think Cortland slides to third base?
Yeah, this is no offense to Cortland at all. But who is your shortstop?
Based off that play and just looking at him a little bit, I was like, he looks
smooth. He's a left-handed hitter too.
Yeah, not that Cortland doesn't look smooth, but there's some guys that you see are just like they could do it with their eyes closed.
Yeah, like dang, that's like a professional baseball player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the potential, I mentioned, to be a top prospect in next year's draft. He was just a sophomore this year at Kansas. I don't think he really wanted to leave. He's originally from Hawaii, didn't really want to leave Kansas, but that coach retired. So he entered his name in the transfer portal. Tennessee came and knocking and got that one done, got him on campus, and it was a kind of done deal at that point. So, I know Tommy Wyatt's out there as well. I know that Tennessee's talked to him. We'll see if anything comes about that. I mean, I just think that their plan right now is like who we get back and let's put the best 9, kind of like you did this season. There's guys that absolutely deserve to play, but hey, you got to put your best 9 out there. Sorry, it's not to hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that, but hey, we're trying to win championships, and it is what it is. When you get to that point, it's like you can't feel sorry for a kid that he's not playing on the number 1 team in the country. Like, yeah,
right.
Blake Burke would probably love to be the everyday first baseman for Tennessee this season, but he's a guy that's been there a long time. I mean, he set the career home run record. He's a great defensive player at first base and a veteran leader on your baseball team. You got to carve your role out somewhere else. If you're not able to win that spot, you got to have a role on this team, and that's what's good. It didn't seem like anybody's jealous, and if they were, I don't think they were playing.
And I think it'll pay off just because you saw an example of it this year. I mean, what about a guy like Logan Chambers that came in that before the year had all the hype? I mean, it was for whatever reason we didn't really see him much this year. But I mean, before the season, I think he was my pick to be the everyday DH before the year started. Obviously, that didn't pan out. But I mean, you get a guy like that you kind of forget about just because he didn't really perform when he needed to, and other guys just stepped up and took the spots. Like now you got another chance maybe where Burke's going to be your first baseman. Christian Moore probably going to be playing somewhere every day. So that don't forget about guys like that not just him specifically, but other guys that come in with hype that, I mean, Kyle Booker, that just for whatever reason it didn't happen for him this year.
Yeah.
There are guys like that on this roster that, like what we saw this year, Jared Dickey just you get a chance and you run with it. Maybe next year there's other guys that take a chance or get a chance like that and run with it.
Yeah, Jared Dickey's going to be in lineups. I mean, the way he swings the bat, he's in the lineup.
Yeah.
So whether that's in the outfield or at DH, catcher, I don't know. Catcher's the biggest question mark for me. Going back to Jared Dickey, yeah, I mean, he's going to be there. So wherever you're going to put him, he's definitely got to be in the lineup. But I think catcher's definitely the biggest question mark to me. Obviously you want to have that closer role with Redmond and Ben Joyce being gone. You kind of want to match that production that they had this season, whoever it may be, whether it's a transfer, whether it could be Halverson, it could be Sechrist, Will Mabry, even if Camden decides to come back. I mean, I don't know. You're going to have, or maybe it's Kirby. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see, but I think you have a lot of talent coming back next year, and I think the start of that is having that SEC pitcher of the year and Chase Dollander back.
There are going to be question marks, but I don't think it's just completely unproven question marks. I mean, I think most of your infield's probably set right now, isn't it? At first, if Jarrell comes back, first, second, shortstop, and third. I mean, maybe Cortland holds down third base, but we're just talking about the transfer at shortstops. I mean, catcher's really the big question mark there. So,
where does Christian Moore play?
Right, like can he catch?
Yeah, they'll just keep moving a position player to catcher.
I'm down for it. Just spin a wheel and
yeah,
it's a lottery.
Kyle Booker, you think he's he finds his way back into that starting lineup in the outfield? I think Dickey's going to be there.
I would think he does. Now, if Dickey's going to be somewhere, I would think maybe it's just based off what we know right now. I don't know. I would probably say Kyle, Stevenson, and Dickey. Now, I don't know which. I'd probably go Dickey in right, Stevenson left, Booker in center. That's just based off what I've seen from him. Maybe, I mean, Seth's the fastest. Maybe put him in center just so he can cover the most ground. But
I think he played center when Gilbert was out, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But that's not. We're not even accounting for freshmen coming in and transfers. So I mean, I see three big question marks in the lineup and in the field. But like we said, there are guys that I could easily see stepping up and running with it next year. Plus, you're not counting freshmen or transfers. I mean, we saw how many freshmen this year make a big. I mean, you had Burt, Moore, Beam, Burns.
Dickey's a redshirt freshman.
Dickey, who we hadn't seen much of. I mean, 4 or 5 guys that coming into the year probably didn't have the highest expectations. And, I mean, besides Chase Burns maybe, and just ran with it. So who's to say there aren't 3 guys in this next class that do the same thing and they step up and they're starting day one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you got a lot of talent to work with, and it's only going to keep coming with the recruiting classes, with the transfer portal, the way that it is. And Tennessee's attractive not only because it's baseball program. I think that's what really gets you in the door, but I think NIL helps that. I think the atmosphere, I think the plans for the new stadium helps. So I think you got a lot of momentum going with this program right now. Again, I just don't think it's I think it's here to stay. I really do.
It's the attraction of the SEC. I saw I still haven't. Is it Ahuna? What's the last name of the new shortstop?
Maui Ahuna? Yeah.
Ahuna. Okay. I was wondering if I pronounced it right. I saw on Twitter earlier, I saw I think maybe it was a tweet you had possibly. I clicked on his profile and he's following 8 people and one of them's SEC network. So it's the draw of playing the big time. Like, I mean, Kansas, you hear Kansas and you think basketball, you hear Kansas football and you kind of throw up in your mouth a little bit. But I mean, Big 12 baseball, isn't that bad, but it's still the attraction of, I can go play shortstop every day in the SEC for the number 1 team in the country. So,
yeah, especially at being in Kansas, where I think they went 4-2 and 20 in their conference. So yeah, definitely a lot. Maybe not that much better competition, but I think you could maybe debate that. But definitely a better team, hundred
If
percent.
if you get the opportunity to play for the number one team in the country, it's going to be hard to turn down.
Yeah, and how much motivation do you actually have when you're 4-20 in the so to bat 396 without motivation? Sign
When
me
you're
up.
when you're staring down the barrel that kind of season and you're in the 47th game of the year, it gets pretty hard to lace the cleats up, I'd imagine.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, real quick. Let's go best moment MVP. I'll let you go best moment, and then I'll go MVP first.
Sweeping Vanderbilt in Nashville. Just
Okay.
the significance of it, what I think the time of the year that it happened, it was right after Ole Miss too. So you were wondering, did we just catch Ole Miss at the wrong time? That series kind of confirmed, like, no, it's what's happening is legit, and kind of, I know we discussed it off air, but kind of the changing of the guard. Like, I feel like maybe that was maybe in 5 years from now, you'll kind of look back not only this year, but maybe even hone in on that series and kind of say, that was where the big brother finally took the state back over.
Yeah. Um, is also the birth of Mike Concho.
Yes, exactly. That which will never die.
Right. I think that'd definitely be up there with me. I think getting the win in Hoover, because I mean, a couple years ago, we're talking about like, hey man, we got to make it to Hoover. We haven't been to Hoover in forever,
Yeah.
and now we go in there and just whoop up on every team we face in Hoover. That was pretty special. Um, so I'm gonna go with that. Just put another number on that outfield wall by winning the conference championship. I think that's probably the top moment. Also, like the little finger doink on home plate by Luke Lipsius. That was pretty special.
As far as individual moments, that was probably going to be mine. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, MVP. I'll go with this one first.
Are we going season MVP?
Season MVP.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is maybe it's not your best player, but I think it's the guy who like you needed to have a really good season to be 57-9, and that's Drill Ortega. I mean, batting 140 something last season and have the season that he did, where I think on some places he was all SEC. Um, but I think he had a phenomenal year. I think at the beginning of the year he's making some errors in at second base, but I thought he really improved his fielding over the past couple months, and um, the bat was always there. I think he had 18 home runs for the year, and I think he had one all of last season. So pretty special year for him. I hope he comes back because I think this again. You mentioned earlier this fan base loves him. I think the NIL deals will be there, and hey, maybe we can get his whole family moving up here, kind of like Nico. His whole family probably moved down here. We get the whole group that he had in that Florida series to be here. That'd be pretty cool.
I'll go.
Also, he's got the best walkout song, so that helps too.
What is his? I forget.
It's Bandoleros. I might be butchering that, but it's off of um, Fast and Furious.
Okay, I can hear it in my head, I think, but I don't know what the title is. Um, I'm torn between two. I'll go Dolander just because we saw him last year, kind of what he could be going against him. You brought him in. I think I go with him not only for what he did this season, but for kind of the path that he created, where now you're seeing NIL take over, you're seeing more transfers. I think it's good to see a situation like that where a guy transfers and it pans out almost perfectly for the kid.
Yeah.
Not only for him, because I mean, obviously his performance this year was incredible all year, but for the future, for now, where like what we're talking about before our season's even over, we've got arguably one of the best players in the portal already coming in.
Yeah.
He kind of established that with his performance this year, kind of the question mark of can that work? And I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
It turned out okay.
Yeah, I don't think it could have gone any better. I mean, obviously, team wise, it could have with the end goal, but for him individually, I mean, I was going to go either him or Trey, but just for that reason, I go Chase. Trey was
Yeah.
more of the guy that stuck around, finally got his shot, and it's probably going to be making millions because of what he did. So tough
Yeah.
decision, but
Yeah, I think you can put Evan Russell in that category as well, just moving from catcher. I think you mentioned it in the first episode of this is he's already your MVP because of, the moving from outfield to catcher and, didn't have hardly any experience at it whatsoever. And I thought he did a pretty dang good job for not having that experience. So, also, I think Mike Honcho made him some money this past weekend. I do want to mention that. I thought he was seeing the ball well. Everything was just a freaking rocket, even all of his foul balls. Um, so, I don't know which one of I think Gilbert's first rounder. Beck and Tidwell, I think, could possibly be first rounders. So you could potentially have 3 first rounders on this team, which is absolutely insane. But we move on. Guys, it's been a lot of fun. This 18th episode this season of the Bat Flip. We'll be back next season. Hopefully, we'll have some more people on. We'll change things up a little bit. We won't do just the same thing, but it will be the Bat Flip. We'll keep the logo. I like the logo. Tennessee likes flipping bats. Maybe some other things as well. But that's all we got. Thank y'all for listening, and peace.